morning, everybody, and welcome to the Dragon Bakery. Today, our first experiment will be cinnamon rolls.
Wait. Before you start, check you have all this stuff.
Now, before we do anything, I'm going to preset the oven to 385 because that is the temperature I have found to work best for me. The very first basic thing you need is a tea biscuit recipe. Now, I use one from the 5 Roses cookbook. When I turned 18, I got an apartment and moved off to go to Bishop's. And my mom wisely gave me my first cookbook. And I still have a copy, and as you can see, I've burnt the cover and it's been well used. But it has your basic tea biscuit recipe. I was told I had to follow a recipe to share this with you. Usually it's all in my head, but I'll do my best. First, we need to make the dough for the tea biscuits. And we will start with flour. And I have a nice flour bin right here. And I will start with 4 cups of flour. And as you can see, I am not a tidy baker, but I do believe it is the best thing to get used to that because I also don't use an apron, and so I tend to do this a lot and make a mess. Anyway, so I've got a bit of basic flour. I add to that the magic ingredient, magic baking powder. Now I tend to like magic, it's the very good kind, plus I love the word magic. So I take usually 3 large teaspoons of magic baking powder. There we go. And mix it in a little bit. Now the next thing you absolutely always have is a special ingredient called salt. They say put in a pinch of salt. I just guess because it's hard to tell, but I always make sure I have salt. So I have the basic ingredients for tea biscuits. I need to add shortening. Now I have always used tender flake, and you will know that there is a great debate in the baking world between tender flake and Crisco. Whatever the Crisco people tell you is wrong. Always use tender flake. It's just, I'm a tender flake guy, what can I say? I mean, with the word tender in the title, how could you not choose tender flake? So, before I do that though, I have a special secret ingredient. It's not in any other recipe, but I find it makes my cinnamon rolls extra moist. I add a little bit of applesauce. Because did you know apple and cinnamon go together?
Dragon forgot to give you a number, but that's 1 cup applesauce.
And so I just take a little bit of applesauce, put it in here, mix it together, and it also adds a little bit of extra sweetening. And what that means is well, I don't like to give away secret ingredients, but I have been told that I do a really good job with this stuff. So that is one of the things I have, and I will mix them all together. Now, something to be aware of when you're doing this is that you do have to get your hands dirty. I know there are people that worry about that. But see my hands, I have the best washed hands in the Eastern Townships, partly because of all the dishes I wash. So do not worry. But I will tell you who are amateur bakers, make sure you wash your hands before you ever start doing any baking. So to this mixture I add a cup of shortening, and this gives it the nice texture. So this is where I do this. Now be aware, this is not a nice, easy job. This is a messy job. So I have to tell you, I've been making cinnamon rolls for a long, long time. My mom used to make them, and if you ever grew up in a church family out in the country, Mom would spend a day baking, and it would always be with the instructions, don't eat any yet, don't eat any yet, because she'd be baking for the UCW or the ladies group or something, and we couldn't touch any of her baking until she brought all the extras home from the meeting, and then we could do whatever we wanted. So if you grew up in a church family, you're kind of used to that. We always got lots of baking, but we always had to wait. So you have now got the basic tea biscuit dough mixed up, ready to go, but you need one more ingredient. And this is where I will caution you, Gordon Lambie, wherever you are, or whoever is lactose intolerant. I use regular milk, but when I was at theater camp, one of my campers was lactose intolerant, so I got soy milk or silk milk or whatever it was called, and it worked just as well. So just be aware that you need to have milk to add to this mixture. And this is my part that's hard because I tend not to measure. So I'm going to say approximately a cup. But what you need to do is mix it up a little bit, see how the texture is, and then discover, oops, too much. And I am now discovering that I have a little bit too much milk in here because it is too mixed up. And this is what you need to do. See, this is a bit too sticky on my hand because instead of doing by instincts, I tried to give you directions and it didn't work. So that's where you always need extra flour. And so a little bit extra flour will help. And I now have a very good mixture. I'm going to let this sit for a minute and show you the next ingredient. The next ingredient, of course, is cinnamon and sugar. So what I need to do is in a small case like this, I put in usually about 2 cups of cinnamon.
He said cinnamon. He meant sugar. 2 cups of sugar. 2 cups of cinnamon is way too much cinnamon. It's not going to be very good. So, 2 cups of sugar. The cinnamon comes next.
And to my cinnamon, to this I add cinnamon.
About 4 tablespoons of cinnamon.
Now, you'll note I have a rather large container of cinnamon. I go through a lot of cinnamon and a lot of sugar because these things are at every meeting, every time. They not only go to camp and camp committee, but every time there's been a Presbyterian conference or region meeting, I have to bring cinnamon rolls. And they become a go-to for virtually everything, including all of our church functions. So one of the things, be aware if you become a baker, if you become successful, you will be asked for lots of your baking. So this is a nice, relatively good mixture. I think I'll add a touch more cinnamon. There we go. And it's a bit too much, so there we go. So we now have a nice cinnamon mixture. And I'll put that aside for later. So now we return to this. What one needs to do next is to roll this out on a wood surface. I usually work over there, but for the camera's sake, I will do it this way. And before you put the mixture there, you must add flour so it does not stick. And do not ever be shy with flour. Don't ever buy a tiny little bag. Oh, and by the way, the best flour is 5 Roses flour. I just say, I like my 5 Roses. So, now I've got this out here, and I squeeze it out, and I'm getting ready to do some rolling. But first, I want to show you something. I use this rolling pin, but once in a blue moon, I actually have a dragon rolling pin. And I use this for cookies and things. And so your stuff gets a dragon shape on it. But not today. Today we will just do the plain regular. So I'm going to roll out the mixture. And like I said, you need to be very aware that your hands are going to get very dirty when you do anything like this. And you get it nice and flat. This is one where mostly you just take your time, roll it out, get it ready to go. And now you have your tea biscuit. I take a bit of this, stick it there so there's no blank spaces. And actually, that does not look bad. A little bit more flour so it doesn't stick. There we go. So now I'm ready for the next phase. Butter. Do not let anyone convince you that margarine is the way to go. I am a butter guy. I go through lots of it, and you really definitely need real butter to make anything that's any good. Just saying. And I take the butter and I drop it in bits and pieces all over this, and this gives it a nice texture and flavor. I grew up on a farm and we had our own cattle, and when I was a little kid we actually made some butter, and I'm convinced that the oleo people, sorry, they're just wrong. Anyway, so we now have some butter, and I'll get some more on there. I'm not used to an audience, but I hope you don't mind. I just work in butter. So there we go. I think I've got just about the right amount. And you can see it's spread out pretty well. Now comes the topping. Now, today we are making cinnamon rolls. But there have been occasions when I've used caramel or maple fudge as a way of switching it up. But for today, I will take the traditional cinnamon roll. So now I just spread the cinnamon sugar all over. It makes a nice mixture. And again, I can't tell you how exactly to do this. It's the way it looks. And I look at that and say, that looks just about right. Because I don't think it's physically possible to exactly tell you how to cook everything. So now comes the rolling part. You roll it up nicely, just like that. And I'm used to working over there with a full wood table. This is a little bit smaller, but it's actually working rather well. So there we go. And you roll this up until you have one long roll of tea biscuit dough and cinnamon. There we go. And exactly, that looks just about right, I think. Now this is where I usually take a moment and rinse my hands, because you're going to get totally dirty doing this. And I have to tell you, I'm not going to change what I always do. I tend to do this because the shirt will definitely need to go into the laundry right away. So now I get the pans. If If you heard that, that means the oven is ready. So our timing is just about perfect. I have my cinnamon roll pans, they're metal pans, and you don't add any, you don't put any butter on them or spray them or do anything because you don't need to. So now I would simply take this.
If you're not supposed to be using sharp knives, get an adult or use a knife that's not sharp, like this one.
And put them on the pan. In fact, I will move the pan here so you can see what I'm doing. And what you have is a round wheel sitting right on the pan, just like that. And I have done this enough so I know about the size of the pan I need and about the size of the but what I need to do to make these perfect. So and I'll move that over here. You need space between them so they don't grow together. You always have one that isn't quite perfect. They're the factory seconds. And usually my dear wife Tammy here gets to eat the factory seconds. And she doesn't seem to mind because she also gets factory seconds of cookies and chocolates too. So there we go. So that's what it looks like. And we now put it in the oven.
Be super careful. If you're not supposed to be putting things in the oven or taking them out on your own, ask an adult. And if you are allowed to put things in or take them out on your own, when you take things out, wear oven mitts. Be really, really careful. Okay, go ahead.
And this is where it's a little tricky. It's about 12 minutes. But what I like to do is keep a strict watch on it because then I will know exactly that they are perfect. So take a moment, go have a break. We're taking a pause in our show.
A few moments later.
We have our cinnamon rolls. And as you can see, they are in very great shape, lots of fun. And here are some tiny perfect ones. And notice how I don't like them to be too well cooked. I like them to be soft and moist. And the applesauce does that as well. A couple of notes, always use these things because you do not want to take these out without oven mitts. Second thought, if you are gluten-free, I have made these often with gluten-free flour, and then I kind of cheat and don't put the butter on, I put oil. But I can make these gluten-free if need be. And I'm sorry, dear campers and counselors, that when there won't be a chance to eat them right away. One note, I'm like you, I don't get to eat them, I just get to look, because I am a diabetic. Well, thank you for coming to Dragon's Kitchen, and as you can see, it's time for me to change my shirt, because I don't like aprons. Have a good time, and wait a minute, my wife is telling me one more bit of mention.
Do you have any other notes for the campers if they are working in a kitchen?
Just be very careful, and if you are very young, ask your mom and dad and let them make sure that you are aware of that. And one other thing, we have a very badly planned kitchen here because right over here is our smoke detector and it often goes off in the middle of baking. Fortunately, it did not this time. So kids, I thank you and welcome to Dragon's Kitchen, and wait for more dragon stories later on this month. Bye!